And good morning. It's another soggy Wednesday, and we are live on YouTube. We're going to bring in our Facebook groups real quick and get going. Hopefully you were able to sleep through the thunderstorms last night. And I got out yesterday on my bicycle while it wasn't raining, and then it downpoured all last night. An error occurred. Let's try one more time, and if it doesn't go live, then so be it. We won't worry too much about it. Okay, it says we're live. Welcome in, everybody. This is the Falcons Podcast. It is a Wednesday morning edition, and it's not just any Wednesday morning edition. This is the Falcons schedule NFL release day. Now, we already know we've got one game in the books. The Atlanta Falcons will be taking on the Indianapolis Colts for the first ever game in Berlin in November. So not quite Oktoberfest, but should be a good trip nonetheless. And the Falcons won international marketing rights in Germany in 2023. So this isn't really a big surprise. What was more of a surprise was that they didn't play in Germany last year. Nick, how you doing, my friend? Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I'm doing pretty well. Feeling healthy. Luckily, little guy's getting over his cough, so that's good, and sleeping through the night and ready for another week of single dad life next week. My wife has off to another interview here, so I don't know. I'll probably What was that?
So that's exciting times. So you're about the same age I was when we picked up from Georgia and left for California. We're about the same age. Spent about 10 years out there and then came home.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with everything there. But I'll be single dad, so I won't be here next Wednesday. But that's hopefully it can be there Tuesday night. But yeah, no, we're doing okay, and the mustache will be back. So that I'll have to wake up really early on Monday to get up to make sure, because my wife hates it so much, and I don't want to be repulsive to my wife, but like I think it's funny at the same time. So like when she's gone or I'm gone, the mustache comes back. So
and you're sending her pictures. Oh yeah, the stash. The stash. Well, we go live because we like having the conversation with y'all. And speaking of health, John Harrell was in the hospital on Monday. One of a couple of our viewers watching from the hospital. Man, that's dedication, y'all. He says, "Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday." And he says he's out. He's out. He's been working. So good. Glad you're feeling better, dude. Joseph Smith, good to see you. He says, "Good morning, Falcon Nation," from beautiful Ocala, Florida. Question: do you believe the Falcons will retain Kirk Cousins as a backup quarterback this season? And Joseph, I've come around on this, the more time, because one, he's not going to have a market. Two, I guess they feel he won't be that much of a distraction that it's not worth just giving him away for nothing and actually paying him to play for somebody else, because, that's what would happen, that they'll just keep him as a backup. Mike Tomlin had a famous phrase, no hostages. When someone wanted to go, they went. Not so much with Arthur Blank and the Atlanta Falcons. They said, hey, we've already paid him. Why would we just let him go why would we pay him to go play for someone else? Well, because sometimes that's the right thing to do, right? Matt Ryan, right? Julio Jones, right? Deion Jones, and the dead cap on it. So I said last week, and I've said before, basically every prediction I've made about Kirk Cousins since he was signed has been wrong, because they have been unprecedented in how they have handled Kirk Cousins since they signed him. From the redshirting draft class, including quarterback Michael Penix, to, leaving him in there too long, publicly throwing him under the bus, and him, their spat, "Oh no, I was actually hurt." Well, no, you weren't. And letting him get a $10 million bonus for a guy they don't want. Yeah.
Even before that, Scott. I mean, signing the guy with the injury, and then like, oh, well, maybe he's more hurt than we thought. I mean, like that whole process of even wooing him and bringing him in.
All of it has been just unprecedented. Let's get a tampering. Lose a 5th round pick for tampering on it. So it's all been. Let me mute my phone real quick. Apologies. All of it's been unprecedented. So do I think they'll keep him now? Yeah, I think so. Why not? So, which is a complete 180. And there's probably takes me saying no effing way, forget it, no way, no how. Maybe so. What would the reception be like if he ends up having to take the field, or, when he's even on the field as the backup quarterback and he's on the field? Does he get heckled? Does he get ignored? I don't know. I really don't anymore, Joseph. Not with Kirk Cousins. What you think you don't.
Yeah, really weird dynamic this year with the Falcons. I'm still holding out hope that they can figure something out. I'm not hoping that anybody gets hurt, but let's say, JJ McCarthy looks not good or something like, we have a roster right now that we feel like we can make some moves. The Vikings really winning on the offensive line as well this offseason. So maybe that's something we could see there. But or Aaron Rodgers decides, you know what, this football stuff, I'm done. Not for me. And do we want to watch Will Howard versus Mason Rudolph out there in Pittsburgh? I don't. So I'm still holding out hope.
Yeah, I've said the best they could probably expect to get is a day 3 pick, which is 4th, 5th, or 6th round and $10 million in cap relief. I'd take that. I would take that in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, will they? I don't know. And is anybody offering that? Pittsburgh Steelers might be the next first team to actually make a trade offer for him. And then if he is playing the good soldier, then an in-season trade might work for him before the trade deadline. His value kind of like Tyler Algier, except in this case, you really don't want Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins don't want to be there, and the Atlanta Falcons don't want him there. I mean, that's I don't think that's a hot take, but they don't have any financial benefit of just cutting him loose right now, and nobody's making any trade offers for him. Oh, people, he needs to waive his no trade clause. Why? No one's trading for him. That hasn't been the stumbling block in any of these negotiations. The stumbling block is nobody wants him. Nobody wants him right now. They want other options other than a soon-to-be 37-year-old quarterback who looked like ass to finish the season last year. That's the stumbling block.
One thing I will kind of push back on, Scott, is that I think trading for a running back at the trade deadline is feasible. Trading for a quarterback at the trade deadline that you expect to come in is a much harder ask, because
I agree. But if you were going to do it, you do it with a veteran who's been in a few systems. You know, maybe he's played for one of the coaches. You know,
I would say the one spot makes sense is the Vikings with Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, maybe something like that. But no, you're right. Thank you. You're right on that. I just, again, I don't know anymore with Kirk Cousins. Maybe I never did, but you know, you try and look at historical precedent. What did 100 straight teams do? And then, well, what did the Falcons do? The opposite. That's typical. I should have known. I should have known. 10 Cam, good to see you. Dave is here as well. Michael, the Sunrise Ronquillo as well. Good to see you. Austin, good morning to you. Good morning to you. Keith Robbins over on Facebook. Good to see you in the chat. Smooth C. Trenton's talking about he loves hearing that quality time. Michael Baxter saying hello. Tony, Atlanta boy, here it is. He says, I don't care where we play as long as we win. We can play in the middle of the desert. We better win. Xavier, good to see you as well. Chris, one of the OGs. He's been with us from the very beginning. This is our 5th season doing this, Nick. And Chris has been with us from the beginning.
Yeah.
Trent says, I'll have to remember to send Scott $5 for your coffee next Wednesday. You'll probably need it. Nick's going to need plenty of coffee next week. I got a coffee subscription from my kids one year. Here, we're the reason you need it. So here you go. Alan here, he's here as well. Tony says Kirk Cousins' wife is from the Atlanta area. He isn't going anywhere. Yeah, that doesn't matter. It's half a season. You know, these guys, he's been in Minnesota. He's been in Washington. These guys move all over. It's part of the deal. These guys will move where the job is. It may have helped with the recruiting process, but if it comes down to no, stay here and be a backup, or no, I'm going to block a trade where I can go be a starter, he's going to go be a starter. So,
and the real big frustrating part is, we've talked about it before, but we're still, jury's still out on Penix. I'm always, the jury's still out on Bo Nix and Jane Daniels as far as I'm concerned. CJ Stroud, I like a good sample size. But you're really it's so frustrating to have the cost-controlled rookie quarterback in-house, and you're still paying $30 million, $40 million a year for the position with everything. Because, it is a cost control with that 8th overall pick, but that's still some decent money.
The Falcons overall, are 5th this year in quarterback expenditures. They're 5th.
And that's that's such a cheat code for team building. Falcons, how do you build a great defense? Cost control rookie quarterback and throw assets at it. Well, guess what? You're in the red there. So yeah, it is frustrating. Is it going to matter long term if Penix is the all caps guy? Maybe not, right? That's big picture. All that really comes down to is that Penix can be a star quarterback, and we saw flashes of incredible play last season. So we're hopeful for that, of course. But man, it's just such a kick to the gut with where the Falcons have been defensively and everything.
Chris Walker says he may actually play in the preseason now. He might. Absolutely. You want to try and showcase him or, get him crunched.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see more players play in the preseason this, and I understand. I don't think we will after, DeMarco and Braylon Trice go down. I think he'll probably be even more conservative, but there's some guys out there. There's some camp battles this year that need to work out, but maybe they'll be doing those during joint practices or whatnot. But I like to see some work in the preseason. I mean, what was the difference between a winning season last year? It was that first game against Pittsburgh. There were several of them, but that Pittsburgh game was there for the taking. They looked awful on offense in that first game. Like they didn't know what to do. They were trying to protect him. They wouldn't throw the ball downfield. Zach Robinson's keys, we wrote it up. It was in this formation. They did this every single time. No play action. So it was a little preseason. Might have been good. Maybe to your point though, Nick. Maybe he couldn't play. Maybe he wasn't ready to play in the preseason last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you wouldn't see the play if not saying the play action meant to me that he didn't have the mobility and they were worried about his health. So, yeah, it's all easy to see in hindsight. Again, I was like, oh man, Kirk Cousins, if he's healthy and he passes all your stuff, that'd be a good sign and use your other pick elsewhere. Trade down, get that defense going so you can find that quarterback. But obviously not good in hindsight, not healthy. That's the big one too. And it's hard. We got JM Gribben coming in.
Jay Gribben. Jay Gribben's a fellow Pope Greyhound, an excellent inside linebacker from the class of 92. Heck yeah. I went to high school with Jay. I don't just know all of this stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, Jay was a year behind me, and Jay was a beast. You didn't want to butt heads with him, that's for sure. He says, good morning, y'all. Do you think Koo stays here? I think Koo will get some competition as well. I think it's probably his job to lose still, though. But, the Falcons, I think, were DFL last year in field goal percentage. And if not, it was close. And it changed the way that the games had to be coached. When you have to get inside the 20 to make a field goal when everybody else basically has to get inside the 40, all of a sudden when you're on the 35 and you're 4th and 4, you're going for it instead of taking an automatic 3 points. On 4th and 2, you kind of want to go for it anyway. But it changed the way that the games were being played, and it hurt. And Koo, who was also playing through an injury, was a liability last year. So hopefully he gets healthy and he returns to form. But if not, I think he's got to be on a short leash. I think he has to be.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have the margins. He's not, a superstar player. We saw with the Ravens moving on from Justin Tucker. Now, granted, there's an asterisk on that one with everything going on there. But yeah, no, Koo making too much money to not be on a short list right now. And you do have Lenny Craig in here that you brought in for competition as well. So keeping an eye on that for that competition there. So Lenny Craig, clicking on him. Guess what college it says for him? No college. Interesting. Interesting for him. I'm not sure. But definitely has to have some competition there.
Michael, good to see you. It's this morning. It's been a rough few days, and I'm here. I hope you're doing okay, and hope it's like weather related. I hope, because there's been a lot of water down, south of us and on us. So I hope you're doing okay. Jimmy says the New England game is week 1. Did that just leak? How do we know that New England was week 1? I hadn't seen that yet.
I'll check. Okay,
for it. That may have come out. I don't want to deal with cold weather later in the season. Yeah, it's not a historically great team in the cold. Let's face it, the Falcons historically haven't been a great team, period. But they're also the first team to hang a home loss on the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. I think that was a Michael Vick thing, if I'm not mistaken. But I hadn't seen the New England getting that. And I would like to get New England early as well, because I think as a young team with a young quarterback, New England could be a very different team week 15 than week 1. I'd like to get New England early as well.
Yeah, there's a couple comments on Facebook, or at least Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever, but nothing from like schedule leaks or anything like that. So we'll see. It's possible, but there was a list that was out there that was verified untrue as well. So we'll find out here pretty soon.
And then
that would
Red
be good.
Storm, he
I would like
says
to play
Zach
New
Klein
England.
is reporting that it'll be the Bucks in Atlanta in week 1. And Zach's good. He's as WSB. Zach is good about this type of stuff. So I would go with Zach, and I have no reason not to believe Zach on that. Maggie T Productions, good morning. Popping in nice and early. Hope you are doing well. Good to see you, and looking forward to seeing the schedule, and then we'll do predictions on that type of thing. But we'll get into a couple predictions first on this. Now, this is something that's I've been kind of passionate about, and sorry if this is going to bore you to tears, so I won't take too long with it. But is Atlanta Falcons ticket prices? So, I'm still on a season ticket list, so I still get marketed as such. And one of the, as I always tend to look at it, and then they follow me up, and it says, hey, I saw you were looking at these. Are you interested? As they're tracking my stuff. But they've got several options, and I had seats. I had actually had in the 2000s, late 90s, I had like club level seats right here. So in the 200 section, one level down from here, and they were cheap. I didn't have any money. They were cheap, but I'm going to go through 3 tabs here of the seats and the ticket prices. And these seats right here for the season ticket per seat are $900. I actually think that's decent value. I mean, that's more than my old cheap Heine wants to spend on going to a football game and spending my entire Sunday right now. But as I get older and my kids get out of school and I'm not watching them on the weekends, then, maybe I think that's decent value. Good view. You can see the whole field. $900. The second one here, this is like third from the back. This one, Nick, and it's got some club level benefits. So that's part of the premium package. This one, 8 home games is $2,500. So you're talking $300 a game. That seems, that's definitely too rich for my blood. And then finally, this one down here, it's cool, the virtual view on this. These are, it's just a little hard to manage sometimes because it moves around like a gyroscope.
I saw where I spilled my beer on that one, Scott, when you on the ground.
These seats right here, these are almost identical to what I had for 4 years at Atlanta United. And I canceled my Atlanta United tickets when they doubled the prices, basically. It went from $55 a game to over $100 a game. I'm like, no, I'm not paying that. But this one, these, and you've got club seats, this right here, that's a tunnel down to like the Delta Club level or the Mercedes Club. There's one on each side. These are $6,000. So almost, roughly $1,000 a game by the time you get there. Now, I'm of the opinion that Falcons fans won't pay that kind of money for these games, for these type of seats. And when we look at the games, we see that the lower bowl is either empty or full of other fans. Falcons fans aren't buying those seats. Investors and businesses are buying those fans, hoping to try and flip the seats. At $6,000 a seat, that comes up to almost $1,000 a game. And it is, by the time you do parking and food and all that type of stuff, $1,000 a game. Atlanta Falcons fans are not spending that to go to games, and you ruin your home field advantage at the bottom in the lower bowl. And the optics are terrible. The audio is terrible because it's all other fans, because I will spend $1,000 to go see one game, like a lifetime type of thing. I've spent that to go over to England and to watch Chelsea play. But from a season ticket day to day, the market won't support that kind of money. They're getting the money. They're getting it. They're selling those seats, but they're not getting them from Falcons fans.
Yeah. I mean, NFL has gotten pretty corporate, right? The stadiums that still are keeping fans in and keeping price control on a lot of tickets, that's good. But I mean, it's kind of just where it's going. I mean, I hate this team. I don't like the organization, but the soullessness that has come and the major 180 from the Raiders playing in the black hole in the Coliseum and like that neighborhood, very rough, but like fans were loud, even when the Raiders weren't very good for years and years. And now it's in that Roomba looking thing in Vegas, and half the seats are corporate, and it's all fans coming in from out of town. I mean, there's really not a home field advantage anymore. It feels very like a bowl game, Scott, right? Like that kind of feel. So it's too bad. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what the solution is there on that. I mean, the NFL makes a lot of money most of their money from the TV stuff. So it'd be good if you could give a benefit to the fans that actually want to come in and cheer for your team and give your team home field advantage. But I mean, everything is ruled by the almighty dollar. So I don't know.
Gnome's Gnome says, not true. We were sold out last year. Yeah, I just said that. They're selling them. So they're getting their prices. But you look at the games, plus a lot of us stay in the club because it's so nice down there. It's kind of counterproductive, right? You know, I mean, you've just agreed with me without realizing you agreed with me, Gnomes, that you're not filling those seats with Falcons fans. Why not? They're either empty or they're full of other teams' fans in the lower bowl in games. So if you're playing the Panthers, maybe not. You're playing the Buccaneers, maybe not.
Steelers.
You're playing the Cowboys, the Bears, the Steelers, the Packers, some of the, the Chiefs. 49ers. They're full of those teams' fans who also live in Atlanta because there are a lot of them. So just a kind of a little rant on that. I feel like they made the exact same mistake, and I was hoping they wouldn't, because one of the first things Arthur Blank did when he bought the team, he said, we're not selling those seats up top in the upper bowl. We're not sold out. We're a terrible organization. It's a terrible team. We're not selling them. He made them $5. They've been sold out. The Falcons have been sold out pretty much every game since Blank bought the team. He gets it. The concession prices are good. When the Braves moved into Turner, the old Olympic Stadium, after 1996, after the Olympics, they were the most expensive seat game day in baseball. And then they were mediocre for a while, and it took them almost 20 years to recover from that. The Falcons, Arthur Blank did the same thing. Now, football's a little different. There's less games. There's more demand. And it's frankly a more popular in-person spectator sport, the most popular in-person spectator sport in the country. But I still think you're outpricing your fans and you're hurting your game day experience. That's my opinion on that. And wanted to see what some of y'all thought.
I mean, yeah, I can't speak to it too much. I'm still in the millennial tax bracket where we're not making crazy money to spend on that. I'm trying to buy a freaking home at some point, but the money for that is crazy, but not as crazy as the package you tossed out with the international stuff. Scott, what did you say? $6,000?
Yep. I got marketed yesterday. Part of the marketing was VIP. How did they market that yesterday? Atlanta Falcons introducing Falcons takeovers. Tampa Bay, New Orleans, and Berlin. Premium travel packages and fan experiences. It was $6,000 per person for the Berlin trip. Man, what's going on those bus trips, and on the flight over there, so that I'm getting $6,000 worth of value for? That's just, and I've been wrong. I've been wrong on this because I've said, there was a time when it seemed like the NFL was thumbing its nose at the fans. And I said that I feel like the NFL had reached just kind of a critical mass where they've gotten as popular as they're ever going to get. And now some other sports, whether it's MMA, is going to start chipping into them a little bit, but it hasn't. It's still a juggernaut. It's still the big 9,000-pound gorilla out there. And if they can get the money for it and people are willing to spend it, so be it. I just think from a home field, especially for a travel package like that, I just think they're hurting their game day experience, and they still make most of their money on TV, and it looks bad on TV, and it hurts your home field advantage.
Yeah. So we'll see. You got August 809 saying not a fan of too many international games. Well, again, everything ruled by the almighty dollar. I think these international games are here to stay. I mean, gosh, you saw the international slate. There's something every week. You even have the Vikings playing 2 games, international back-to-back. So I would expect this to become more of the norm. My big concern will be, the quality of the turf on some of them. But hey, I mean, there's some bad NFL turfs out there as well. Like Chicago is just horrible every single year. It's crazy. So we'll see how these go. It's pretty tough for a lot of like the West Coast teams too. Like how much like a flight coast to coast flight is pretty long already, Scott, and that's pretty close timeline wise to flying to New York to UK. So now you're flying LA to Germany or something. And that's a lot of travel.
It's what, 5 hours from there and 6. It's almost a 12-hour flight. You might as well start playing in Australia. I kind of like the international games. I went to one. I went to watch the Broncos Chargers. No, Jaguars. Jaguars in Wembley, and it was cool. It was a cool experience, and it was fun seeing all the international fans. I started the guy I was with. We started counting jerseys as we were walking around, and we saw a jersey from all 32 teams that were there. So it's an experience for those people, and it's excellent marketing. They just want to go and see it. I mean, I went to by the same token, but it was preseason. That was different. I went to see Real Madrid and Chelsea at the Big House. They had 95,000 people watching a friendly and a scrimmage between two of the bigger clubs in the country. It's cool. It's a very cool experience and a marketing experience for the fans. But I saw all 32 teams, which is cool. Furman, Michael, Jeremy, good to see you. Glad you're able to listen in today. Let me see here. Hopefully hopeful. Good morning, guys. Last game I went to was a rematch of the Vikings Falcons playoff game after our Super Bowl with Knicks Broncos. In my defense, I live in Buffalo. So was that the Vikings and Falcons play a playoff game? I don't even remember that one. After the Super Bowl, I don't remember that one. It's if they did. It seemed like they played the 49ers every single year in the playoffs, and I know they got the Seahawks. I went to was a rematch. Oh, just a rematch of the playoff game. So yeah, okay. So yes, they've been up there since then. Good to see you too. Melda says, I love the Falcons. I have since the beginning. Again, I really bristle when people say, it's a bad sports town or bad fickle fan base. Are you kidding? Man, if you're a Falcons fan, you are as loyal as a freaking dog. So to be able to still be a fan of this team, you should be applauded for your loyalty, even if you get mad every so often. That happens. People, this team's fickle. That's why they're not. The fan base is fickle. That's why they're not winning. No, I think you got the chicken and the egg mixed up on that one, dude. It's this is a very loyal fan base that has been abused by years and years of mismanagement.
Yeah.
So
also you have other tickets in town. And the South has high standards for football with SEC, right? And if you have a chance to, now me being a dad, you have one day where you could sit there and you can watch it all day. Am I picking championship Georgia or Bama or LSU, or am I going to sit there and watch Falcons or Jags or Carolina Panthers? I'm probably picking the SEC game if I had to pick one day. I'll do yard work the other day, but it's hopefully that will change. And Michael Penix will be a great show in town. I mean, the offense, even the Falcons, I don't know if the Falcons added anything on offense, Scott. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a single player they added, which is crazy. To not even think of one player, but you have a lot of fun pieces there, so it should be fun. We got Jack coming in, says, I live in Chicago. Oh, we got the Pope here. How you doing, Mr. Pope? Good to see you, Jack. It's a constant conversation with Bears fans. Who has more pain? Yeah, Chicago Bears.
It's not close.
Yeah,
it's not close. I mean, especially when you start rapping. The only other city in the entire country that can match is where I was born. It's Cleveland. With the Bears, it's like, okay, you got the Bears. First off, you've got a Super Bowl. That puts you ahead automatically. Second off, you're probably 15th in total winning percentage of all time. The Falcons are bottom 5. Mm-hmm. Second, you've got other avenues of being a Chicago's fan with the Blackhawks. The Cubs have a series. I think the White Sox have one too. I mean, the Cubs were the lovable losers, but that was kind of their thing. That was kind of their gimmick for a while. But then they became big money and got to be pretty good. And obviously the Bulls. It's not even close. The only city that can even compare is Cleveland. And like I said, that's where I was born. I've earned being a cynical SOB. I'm a Cleveland bored Atlanta sports fan. There's a reason why I'm negative.
Yeah. I would say the Minneapolis is probably close as well. Like Vikings have been competitive, but Timberwolves, Twins, the Wild losing the Stars. They've been pretty poor. And I know they only have 2 teams, and the Bills are pretty good right now, but a lot of heartbreak and terrible sports with the Sabres and the Bills out in Buffalo too. So those are the ones that
They're
come
like
to
a
mind.
partial team. That's like Salt Lake, though. They're like, they don't. If you don't have at least the 3 bigs,
Yeah.
I'll throw hockey in there if you're a huge hockey fan. But like, if you don't have baseball, football, basketball, then you're not a sports town.
Mm-hmm.
You might be a football town. Green Bay is definitely a football town.
Yeah.
But I mean sports is an all-encompassing, as in 12 months a year, multiple different sports. You need to have 1, 2, 3. You need to have at least 3 teams, baseball, basketball, football for to enter this conversation. No, don't say, well, Green Bay is an awesome sports town. That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. I mean,
what do you do about Seattle?
For this conversation of year-round pain, of getting kicked in the balls by all 3 of your teams, you need 3 of them.
The one caveat I'll add in there, Scott, is the same thing. It's like, you guys got college football, and there's a reason it's a religion down there, and it is good stuff. Big Ten closing the gap maybe a little bit with the NIL stuff now that it's over the table, and they're paying the coaching staffs crazy money. I don't know if they're paying more than the SEC, but the Big Ten has closed the gap with the SEC there, but everybody else is getting left behind. So luckily you do have that, but you're right. For the professionals, not so good in Atlanta, Cleveland, and I'll throw in Minneapolis as well.
Scott, were you a Brian Sipe fan? Yeah, I was. And then obviously Bernie Kosar was a big fan. So that was my AFC team, were the Cleveland Browns. And then I kind of, as I got older, that kind of goes away a little bit. It wasn't any doubt about who you're rooting for when the Braves and the Indians. I was never really an Indians fan. I was always an NL guy. But I was a Browns fan, and I don't really fan anybody that hard anymore. You just I get tired of losing. I fan Chelsea, and even them I haven't even been watching as much. I turned that one off, at 30 minutes into the game. I'm like, I'm done with these jokers the way they're playing right now. So, again, so a lot of folks, there's still some talks about which game is it. I think it's the Buccaneers. If Zach Klein is posting the Buccaneers in week 1, I'm inclined to believe Zach Klein on that one. Coming back in, we're just bringing it back around since we're about halfway into the show and we got a bunch of new viewers. The Berlin game, yes, I'm very interested in that. I would love to go over and go to go see Dortmund, go see Borussia Dortmund or Bayern Munich on Saturday, and then come back to Berlin for the game on Sunday. I've never been to Germany. I always considered myself German until I had a kid named Sean McAllister Kennedy. I'm like, yeah, I'm Irish. I'm super Irish. But yeah, I'd be real interested in going over there, but I'm not doing the $6,000 travel package per person from the Atlanta Falcons.
No. Yeah. I've been to Berlin before. It was a good time. Make sure you get your lederhosen. That's more in Munich, as South Germany, but Berlin's really fun. When I did my tour to Europe, though, after grad school, worked, a job and saved and lived in a tiny apartment in Iowa. So really saved up for that. But best 2 cities in Europe that I went to, Scott, were Amsterdam and Prague. If I had to vouch for 2, dark horse though is Ljubljana in Slovenia. Slovenia is beautiful, but Berlin was great too. A little bummed we didn't get out to Munich. I think that'd be a lot more fun, the architecture and stuff. We also went to Dresden, which was wild. Dresden is the town that the Russians were close enough they could see Dresden, and the U.S. bombed the ever-loving you-know-what out of Dresden as a show of force to Russia. We're allies, but don't keep pushing here. So yeah, Dresden is like they rebuilt the towers with the stones, but they're all charred. They're black, burnt stone. So cool, crazy history. And part of world history that's obviously important. So if you can get over there and spend some time, it's worth it.
Yeah, it's cool. You walk into something like this place, in Atlanta after Sherman burned the place to the ground going all the way through Georgia. There's not a lot of old stuff around here. And you go over, you're like, oh man, this church, I got married in a church, a log cabin church, and over in Vinings. It's like, this is 100 years old. It's like, then you go over there and this is 4,000 years old. You're like, wow, that's really tough to fathom. Yep. Speaking of old, though, Matt Judon was in the news thanks to FalconsSI.com. He kind of popped off a little bit about, how he was used last year. And if he was used incorrectly or correctly, I'm not sure how much difference it would have made. I would have liked to have found out. But he was in coverage about 50% more than his 2023 season. He was hurt in 2024. About 50% more. And as I stated on a post that went pretty viral on X at Scout Kennedy, that, was he exaggerating when he says he's in coverage 60% of the time? Yeah, sure. But he was in almost 14% of the time in coverage. And it seemed like he was in coverage in some really odd situations too. 3rd and 8, and you see him covering a wheel route in the defensive backfield. You're like, what's going on here? So he sounded off a little bit, and it goes back to, you see people say, well, we should just bring back Justin Simmons. We should just bring back Matt Judon. I think they'd be better and on cheap deals. And those guys don't want to come back. They had a pretty poor experience in their one season in Atlanta. They've both moved on. The Falcons brass understood that and went heavy edge and heavy safety in the offseason.
Yeah, no, you guys hit those positions. If there was a cornerback, you brought back a cornerback, right? So, yeah, both of them are fine to move on from. You made moves to really add bodies to the position, and it'll be a new era, new voices, new leadership in those rooms as well. But yeah, no, Judon was understandably frustrated, but also Falcons are probably frustrated with the acquisition of Judon because he didn't turn the dial enough for them. And they give up a 3rd round pick for him?
Yeah, it was a 3rd round pick, which again, I applauded the move at the time.
Yep.
And it was a fairly low risk, high reward. If you're hoping to get him for more than 1 year, if you do that, but it was nice knowing that you didn't have to, it was a good deal. And to just give up, a couple $1 million in the 3rd round pick for that risk, that's the kind of risk that's worth taking. It didn't pan out, but those are the kind of gambles I like. It was fairly low risk. Would it have been nice to have that 3rd this year? Yes, it would have. But it also would have been nice to get 10 to 12 sacks from Matthew Judon in an attacking style of defense that he never really got to play in. So I understand Falcons fans' frustration with him. It's like, well, when he did play, he didn't look good. I didn't see anybody winning their one-on-ones last year. If they'd rush 4, they'd get blocked with 5 pretty easily. And then the 5th guy would be looking around like, okay, who should I block? Because they weren't winning their one-on-ones, dropping 7 in coverage, and they'd have all day to throw. So no, Judon wasn't good. No, Judon didn't really have a chance to be good. Will he ever be good again? We'll see. He's getting old, man. He's on the wrong side of 30, and Father Time keeps chipping away.
Yeah. No, that's how it is, right? The NFL, not for long. And that's one reason that when you have fan favorites and whatnot, and you look at a guy, it's like, well, he's good, but he's 29 years old. You probably need to start looking towards the future. And that's kind of hard for fans and sentimentality. I think he's going to expect to be that good forever. But the reality is, it's a tough game and body breaks down. So it's that your Calais Campbell types, your Tom Brady's, are more of a rarity out there. So I wouldn't expect that. And Keith Robbins says it's a young man's game. Really is. It really is. I'm 33. I'd be washed. I'd be out of the league, 5 years by now at this point for a lot of the positions. So it's also one reason bringing it back to just team building, Scott, but the draft, every position should be pretty much on the board. Now it depends on the regime and everything, but it should be depend on the talent because it's a constant churn. And the more I get into it, the more I think I approach it as a college team where it's like every single year I'm looking to replace you. I'm looking to bring somebody in who's going to beat you out, even if I feel good with the position. Obviously there's levels to it, but it's the churn of the NFL and it waits for nobody.
And Troy says, I really wish we had Judon for one more year. And then Terry follows up with kind of the point I was waiting to make was, they go from Zach Harrison, Matt Judon, Lorenzo Carter, Ardo McKinney, D'Angelo Malone to Jalen Walker, James Pierce Jr., Leonard Floyd, Ebiketie, and Trice, much more athletic profile. I would much rather have Floyd than Judon. I would have rather had Floyd than Judon last year going in. I think he's a better player.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. Again, I come down to it. It's a lot of light body types on that. So how are they going to mix and match? They're probably going to have to solve the offense or solve a lot of the run stuff with bodies. So you're going to be a little bit more single gap, I would imagine, in penetration front. And some teams can get away with it. Really, if you have a lot of really, really smart secondary players, you can get away with some of the zone stuff, kind of like what we've seen with the Vikings. Or if you have the best cornerback in football in Patrick Surtain. So it will be interesting. It's kind of that style of defense would be a little bit of a break from Ulbricht's typical style as well, Scott. He's been much more 4-man front, bodies in the back end for declogging the lanes. That's been more of the Robert Saleh 49ers, Jeff Ulbrich style, and not the blitz-oriented front. But, you got to do with what the defensive pieces you have. So we got Evan J. in here, $9.99. Thank you so much, Evan. We appreciate the super chat. And he says, I know we're excited for the season, but it all rides on the rookie quarterback with a long injury history. Not to be negative, but if this blows up, are we the biggest laughing stock in the league? The whole Murphy's Law. This was the one reason when the trade came in with James Pierce, I'm like, man, that first-round pick is a lottery ticket, and you don't want to be the team that gives up a future top 3 pick and what looks like an unbelievable quarterback pick class next season. Right now, I mean, I still have a year to play, a lot of question marks, but looks like a pretty good quarterback class next year. If you end up getting a top pick, but you like Penix, or Penix is hurt, I mean, you have to reevaluate that. But
well,
yeah,
you weren't going to go for a quarterback next year, but if you're sitting in the top 3, and you don't need a quarterback, you can get 2 first-rounders out of that. So that would go back to where I would. I've said, you're not taking a quarterback anyway, but that pick, if there's a quarterback available, does become more valuable. But for me, if James Pierce Jr. looks like a top 10 pick, then so be it.
Yeah.
They can stink.
Yeah.
If the Falcons blow up and lose everything, but James Pierce Jr. looks really good, then the trade was still worth it. You've got a young edge rusher, first-round caliber edge rusher. So that to me, that pick depends on James Pierce Jr., not the Falcons' record.
I think it'll depend a little bit on the record because
the perception will.
Yeah.
But in actuality, if I get Will Anderson out of James Pierce Jr., nobody's saying you gave up too much. Even the ones that think you gave up too much, which I don't particularly think you did.
Yeah, and one thing I will push back on a little bit, Scott, if you are sitting there with a top 3 pick next season and Penix got hurt and you did have your first-round pick, you're probably doing work on the quarterback class. Even if you like Penix, it's probably a new regime coming in here. At that point, Penix has the injury history, and there's going to be a crop up there. I mean, it's just as likely you trade back from that, but you're at least, what does this look like? Because you can reset the you can get further away from the dead cap, more years of control. All for naught. This is theoretical because you don't have your first-round pick, so whatever. But I do think that I wouldn't outright dismiss that possibility if you did have your first and it played out that way.
I think Michael Penix, again, if he's capable, if he's healthy, he gets 2 years as a starter just to see. No matter what happens this year, he gets a second year. But then we'll see. Then we'll see. The biggest laughing stock of the league, I don't think the Falcons are relevant enough to be the biggest laughing stock of the league. Unfortunately, we're just not a big enough profile team. We're easy to kick because there's one that the Falcons have given people plenty of reasons to, make fun of them. And 2, there's not a lot of backlash because there's not a lot of us compared to other teams. The laughing stock are like the Jets. The New York Jets are out there. They're a clown show, and they're in a huge market. And they're dealing with, he might not be the biggest name anymore, but he's still right in there, was dealing with Aaron Rodgers, all of that. So we're not the biggest laughing stock of the league because we're not really the biggest anything in the league down here in Atlanta. We're just not. People just don't care enough about the Atlanta Falcons, unfortunately, until you stand up and demand to be seen. I remember, I'll never forget it, Nick. It was the early 2010s, and somebody was going on a decent run and won a few games, and they said, but they hadn't played any of the NFC powerhouses like the 49ers or the Atlanta Falcons. And I went, whoa. Damn, that sounded good. Really? That blew my mind. I was like, damn, that sounded good. NFC powerhouse. Man, because up until that point, if the Falcons had a flash in the pan season, they followed it up with a losing season. But then they strung together 10+ win seasons several years in a row and became one of those teams. So Evan, thank you. Sorry it took me a while to get to that. I was flapping my gums so much I forgot, and we certainly appreciate the support.
Yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate that coming here with the super chat. And yeah, I mean, the other aspect of that, Scott, is the NFC South is kind of a forgotten division as well, right? I mean, even if the NFC East doesn't have any good teams, which
Tom Brady changed that
for a bit,
with
for
the Bucks for a few years.
Breeze, Peyton a little bit as well, but I mean, out of all the divisions, probably the second most forgettable.
I think it's probably the smallest markets, though. Still,
AFC South might be in there.
Jacksonville's super small. Indianapolis is.
You got Houston, which is big.
Houston's big, and then
Tennessee, Nashville,
small. Yeah, so the two
so
AFC South are small market teams.
The AFC South is down there as well. But
forgot to say hi. I wanted to say hi to King Richie. Good to see you, brother. He says, "Welcome, Scott and Nick. Rise up. I'm ready for the season to start, so we can see what we got on the birds." Now, let's do just a couple superlative predictions before we get out of here, because we're gonna get out of here in just a couple minutes. Looking at this schedule, we'll have the schedule. We'll do predictions across it for whatever that's worth on Monday. But who are some of the breakout players going to be? Let me say most improved. Okay, there's a lot of players who could fit this bill, mostly on defense, because nobody played very well last year on the defensive side of the ball. If you had most improved Atlanta Falcon in 2025, who are some of the names you might put out there?
Most improved Atlanta Falcon in 2025. I'm hoping that it's Rukorohoro.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that I'm really hoping for. You spent a good pick on him. You traded up for him. He's got a lot of tools, and he is unburdened with people in front of him. He has a clear path. There's not going to be competition for him. He's going to get snaps no matter what. And he's very talented. High recruit, has the measurables, the length. So, and you added rushers around him as well, then hopefully in a penetrating style. So I'm going to go with Rukorohoro. My concern with him is you don't have, a dominating one next to him that can, eat up. So maybe he gets a majority of double teams if Onyemata or any other defensive tackles aren't standing out in that way. But Rook is one that seems obvious for me. Second-year player. Defensive tackles take a little bit of time, not coming off an injury. So I'll go with Rook.
That was my first choice when I thought of the question. My second choice was in here from Jack. I was looking maybe Clark Phillips. He's finally going to be put in the position where he should be. You don't put undersized, under-athlete players on the perimeter. You just don't do it. If they're not athletic enough to play tackle, you move them to guard. If they're not athletic enough to play guard, you move them to the bench. If they're not athletic enough to play outside, you move them one slide inside. And this is not a huge knock on Clark. He knows his limitations. He's smaller. He's not running 4.3s out there and jumping 40-inch verticals. He's smart. He needs to be inside. So seeing him in a slot in a nickel where he can freelance a little bit more, maybe cover somebody that's not quite as uber athletic but good in tight spaces, I think Clark Phillips has a chance to be one of the most improved players. And, he's going to get a lot of competition, I think, from Billy Bowman. Billy Bowman is going to be there as well. Another good one in here. I think a lot of people were saying would agree with this from Matt and Maurice would be Kyle Pitts. Mm-hmm. Kyle Pitts probably has the biggest gap between production versus expectations of anybody on the team. So he might have, when we talk about floors and ceilings, y'all, that he's got the most improvement possibility out there. We still have pretty high expectations for Rook, and he didn't play a whole lot, so we don't really know. But Pitts, we've seen a lot, and he still has I think he should be a Pro Bowl tight end. Well, that he would qualify. That's a good pick for the offense.
Yep, that is a good pick. I do have more news potentially here, Scott, Falcons wise, from Zach Klein, who following now on X, but he says NFL seems to believe in the Atlanta Falcons this year. League sources tell me Falcons will have 2 Monday Night Football games. Oh man, both at home, both pretty good opponents. The Buffalo Bills and the Los Angeles Rams. So those are tough. Nice. And he adds 2 Sunday Night Football games. The Minnesota Vikings and the San Francisco 49ers, both of those on the road. So that's from Zach Klein as of 15 minutes ago.
Well, they started last year with 4 of their first 5 games were national games, and they played really well. We've grown up saying, "Oh, we're on Monday Night Football. We lose by 28 points," and everybody's why are these guys on here? They weren't good. But the games that they started with last year on prime time, the Eagles, the Chiefs were I don't know if that was a night game or not, but it was definitely a featured game that got shown to most everybody else. Those were all good games. So, yeah, I think the Falcons have a chance to be a good team this year. They were a good team for half a season last year, and then they were pretty dreadful. And it wasn't just, Kirk Cousins' arm. There was more to it than that. That's why we've put so much in the defense down here in Atlanta. But one of the discussions here as far as most improved is Troy Anderson. That's a hard one for me based on your categories. Because when he's on the field, he's phenomenal. The last time we saw a full game from Troy Anderson, he was NFC Defensive Player of the Week. Can he improve on that? Not really. He had like 24 tackles and an interception. I mean, he was insane. A fumble recovery. He had a monster game. That would be hard to improve on. He just needs to be healthy. So for me, I have that one. He doesn't quite fit. He'd be more of a comeback player. Who's your comeback player? He might fit there, not necessarily most improved, because he's good. If we can get where he's at consistently, I'm happy with that. Can you say the same thing about Kyle Pitts? Can you say the same thing about Clark Phillips? No, I want improvement from those guys. I want availability from Troy Anderson. So that's where, as Phillips says, about just improving his health. Yeah, that would be great. If the most improved aspect of the Atlanta Falcons was Troy Anderson's availability, that'd be great. That would be great. Jimmy, appreciate you being here. Keith and Ellen Johnson here as well, coming in late. Glad you are here. True or false? An Atlanta Falcon wins Defensive Player of the Year.
False.
Rookie.
Okay, rookie. I'm still going to go with false.
You take the field.
Yeah.
I mean, the odds are no.
I'd be curious where they are betting wise comparatively. My concern is you have two rookie pass rushers. Are they going to eat into each other's profile, output? I think somebody like Abdul Carter for the Giants, who's playing on a pretty loaded defensive front, going to get one-on-ones. Dexter Lawrence up there as well. I mean, I don't know. I think Abdul Carter would be obviously the first defensive player taken, pure defensive player taken. That'd be the easier pick for me, but I guess it's possible, but I wouldn't. I think you're going to eat into each other.
But I think in the conversation still counts as like a yes. I asked it as like a will they or won't they? Yeah. But will one be in the conversation?
It's so hard to say because it's a narrative-driven award, and you already talked about how the Falcons. We talked. They have 4 primetime games, but according to that account. But I still don't think narratively wise they will. But sacks are sexy. A lot of times those guys do have a chance to do it. So Falcons do enough on early downs to do it. They got a chance. But yeah, I still go no. I think it's going to be hard with the 2 rookies to get enough profile for one person.
Yeah, and kind of wild. Verse had 4.5 sacks as a defensive rookie of the year. He was a wrecking ball. He was. They look at the pressures and how is he affecting games. We when they started talking about, we'd watch the guys. There's a difference between affecting the quarterback and a quarterback pressure. When I don't even remember which game it was, but they were talking about, oh yeah, we increased our pressures. We had more pressures this game than I'm like, that's because he stood in there the entire game, waited until pressure got there, and then delivered a completion. That's not pressuring the quarterback. That's the quarterback waiting for pressure. It's different. I'm going to take every second I can, and then I'm going to deliver. He had a lot of seconds. Getting them off timing, off rhythm is something different.
It'd be nice to know like pressure, like 3 seconds or less, or like what is a quality pressure?
Well, and for me is like, what was your concept? If you're running a screen, well, we pressured the quarterback. Well, that's kind of their job. They want you to pressure the quarterback. They want you to run by all the blockers. That counts as a pressure. No, it doesn't. So the Falcons weren't pressuring the quarterbacks last year. Real quick on this one about Kirk Cousins. Could Kirk Cousins win the starting quarterback spot? No, he is not going to get a chance to compete for the starting quarterback job. He was relegated to backup the same way Michael Penix was last year as a rookie. It was Kirk's job. The QB1 is set. Kirk Cousins is not going to compete for the starting position. He is the backup quarterback right now. That is written etched in stone. If something would have to happen to Michael Penix for that to happen. And Warden, you're absolutely right. Thank you so much. I was trying to think, which old quarterback was it? Warden nailed it. Thank you so much. I love our fan base. You guys are super smart and help me out with when we're going live. It was absolutely Geno Smith. Geno stood back in there, invited pressure, and then just picked the team apart. Well, we really affected the core. We really had lots of pressures. Our pressure rate was blah, blah, blah. BS. We're not stupid. We have eyes. Don't try and analytic your way around what we see. The eye test is still number one. Didn't like it.
Yeah.
So on that note, we're just about to get out of here. Want to say thank you so much to Evan, who came in with a super chat out there. Keith and Ellen Johnson always coming in. Michael, always great to see you. Glad some of our guys are feeling better who weren't feeling great earlier in the week. Get the schedule out. We'll have takeaways and some other news and notes on falconssi.com. That's Atlanta Falcons on Sports Illustrated. So we'll be doing our daily coverage there. And then we will be back on Monday. We'll react to the schedule, and we will do some predictions. We'll do some season predictions for that one. Nick, any last words?
No, I'll see you guys again Monday. Hopefully the mustache will be all groomed and good to go. Yeah, it'll be fun, and we'll see the schedule released tonight. And hopefully all the primetime games for the Falcons are true, because Penix is a really fun player. We'll see if he's going to be a good quarterback, but that arm is real. He's got a cannon, man. He's got a hose. So it should be fun.
It's tantalizing. He's got tantalizing arm talent. And hopefully the Falcons are going to tease us with some wins this year. You know, it's been since 2017, even having a win a season. That's long enough. You know, that's long enough. They've got 5 straight, at least top 15 draft pick classes, and they're maxed out on free agent money. They should be good. Oh, they've built up some talent. They should. They should have some talent after all of these draft classes that are so high. So now let's put them to work. Let's get together. Let's do the schedule. The schedule released today, and then we'll see y'all on Monday. I hope y'all have a great rest of your week and into the weekend. We'll see you next time.